the man behind the hustle and grind. This is pride, courage, determination, and perseverance. Welcome to No Luck's Given. All right, and just like that, welcome to the No Luck's Given podcast with my co-host. I'm Danny Keith, and then I got brother in the building. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Brother Luck.
Brother Luck in the building.
The
welcome
lucky
to
brother.
the No Luck's Given podcast. We appreciate you guys for tuning back in. And we got a special guest today. Let's introduce our special guest.
We have the one, the only, the man behind every glass of wine that you get to sip and enjoy.
Right.
This is the person who can tell you if there was a cow having a baby 30 minutes away from where this grape was grown. Mr. Steve Kander. Go ahead.
Steve Kander.
Let's scoot you in here a little bit more.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, in the live. Yeah, get him in the live. Get him in the live.
There you go. Now we can see you.
There you go. And then I should go check the cameras. But go ahead. Take us off while I'll check the cameras.
All right. So we've got some amazing things going on right now. We are in the middle of getting ready to do some phenomenal dinners this weekend. We are doing a 7-course pairing up here at the studio. We've been working on these influences of heritage and my Creole background. And tonight we're going to talk wine pairings for this dinner. Steve and I have been working together, just kind of a background for about, 15, 16 years now?
Somewhere.
Yeah. About 15, 16 years, Steve and I have been working together, tasting wine, drinking wine, cooking, eating, all the above. And he's a big piece of what we do.
Of the puzzle.
So,
and that's actually kind of what I'm excited about, because we are going to talk about the dinner, but I'm going to kind of interview Saus a little bit about those early beginnings. Because like brother said, they've been working together for about 15, 16 years. And before we do that, Sauce, I want you to introduce yourself to the people. Go ahead and introduce yourself and give a proper introduction. I call him Sauce, baby.
Yeah. The people that know me call me Sauce. Right. Yeah, I'm Steve Sauce Kander. Been with brother 15, 16 years. Been in the restaurants industry for a long time. And I love wine. And I love food. So Bro and I make a good team.
We do. There's something special about what we do, and I think that's one of the most important parts. Is we've been doing these pairings for so long, and we get so in depth into the why of the wine pairing, of the food pairing. And as I eat at other restaurants and I get to experience other tastings, it really comes back to like, holy shnikey, what we're doing is something on a completely different level.
It's amazing, yeah.
All right, and I'm just gonna fix the live because I want Sauce in it a little bit better. Is that fair?
Yeah, real absolutely. So let's just kind of talk about the dinner. So we've got 7 courses that we're getting ready to do this weekend. We're doing a foie gras macaroon. That's gonna be served a nice foie gras mousse inside of this almond and egg white cookie. We're gonna have a little bit of blood orange in there. Some Luxardo cherries, kind of a twist off of an old fashioned. I marinate the foie gras with a little bit of bourbon and bitters and lemongrass and ginger. So I think that's something that's really fun there.
So that's course number 1. I'm gonna take it back because brother and Sauce are gonna talk food, and then I'm gonna talk documentary, ask questions, because Sauce, when you met brother, speak about who brother was. In your perspective, what comes to your mind? What kind of things was he doing? Speak to me about early relationship with brother.
Well, he was slicing the golf ball a lot more than he was.
Yes, I love it. This is so good.
When I first met brother, I'll never forget. I was sitting in, we were at Cheyenne Resort, and I was sitting in the all-employee meeting, and Chef Poulin, who's a good friend of both of ours, stood up and he says, "Well, we got a new executive sous chef coming in. His name is Brother Luck." And we all kind of looked around the room, and I didn't know at that moment in time how instrumental that would be in the rest of my life.
Wow!
At that point in time, I heard that name for the first time, and now here we are, 15, 16 years later. So
it's crazy.
He's been an inspiration for me, and we both have amazing passion for food and wine, and it's 15, 16 years for a chef and sommelier together is pretty amazing in itself.
So speak about like that time period. Okay, Brother Luck is introduced. Real name Brother Luck is introduced to you.
Hold on, we're gonna need some wine for this.
All right. So you can introduce the wine, but talk to me about those early, like how you guys were working together. Like what was he doing? Speak about like like who he was at that time, what was going on, if that's fair. You don't mind if I interview him, yeah?
No. I'm digging this.
Right.
You know, I'm just gonna kind of help Saus out with this. So
yeah, I want to hear.
We're gonna
stories.
start with Valentine's night.
Yeah, right.
2006.
Well, they threw us both into the club at the same time, pretty much.
Okay, here. What's the club? And help us out.
So Cheyenne Mountain Resort also has a country club of Colorado, and both brother and I were upstairs when he first came, and I was a beverage supervisor in the Will Rogers Lounge, and the beverage carts and whatnot. And Chef was the executive sous chef of the restaurant. And then I remember I was there for a couple of years, and then at the Country Club of Colorado, the food and beverage manager's job, there were 7 food and beverage managers in the first 2 years that I was at the Cheyenne Mountain Resort. And our a wonderful person in both of our lives, Laura Newman, who's the general manager there, called me in the office one day, and she says, I think you should take that job down there at the club as the food and beverage manager. And I said, are you trying to get rid of me? Because that's like a kiss of death position.
Yeah.
And she said, I'll tell you what, you take the job. If things go bad, I'll pull you out. So she gave me a lifeline. I said, okay, I'll take the job. And then I lasted down there for 5 years, which is pretty amazing.
Good for you. Good for you.
But at the same time, we had a chef down there. And I hadn't gone down there yet. I think you and I started at the same time.
Same night.
Yeah,
Valentine's.
And we had a chef down there who put a menu together. You'll have to elaborate on that.
Yeah, so I was sitting, I'd only been at the hotel maybe a week and a half. I hadn't been there that long. And we were sitting in a staff meeting, a food and beverage leadership meeting.
Yeah.
And we're talking about upcoming events, and it was Valentine's Day. And I remember asking the chef, well, how are we looking down at the club with their menu? And he goes, you know what, you should go downstairs and check on the chef.
Yeah.
So I went downstairs. This is probably about 3:30. I went downstairs and I started looking at this tasting menu that he wrote. And it's this elaborate tasting menu, multi-courses, and nothing's prepped.
Nothing is prepped?
Nothing's done.
What?
Like, he's got to make, he's got consomme, which is this clarified broth that takes,
how much time between?
Hours and hours and hours, right? You want it nice and crystal clear. You got to chill. Like, there's a lot of work that comes into making a good consomme. He just had got the stock on the stove.
And
like,
this is like
3:30,
and
dinner starts at 6.
Oh my God!
So I get on the phone, right? When you work in the big hotels, you can always jump on the phone and call up to the main kitchen. I get on the phone and I call Chef and I'm like, hey, we're in the weeds. There's nothing done, and we need help. So I put out the distress call. I put out the 911, and they sent Steve down to help. And
so Steve is helping prep.
No, I'm in the front of the house.
The front of the house.
Okay.
So him and I literally jumped in to essentially save the day and work through this.
Because are you working
night.
through service and prepping for the night? Is that kind of what's going on?
So I was in the kitchen the whole night, like putting out tickets, making sure the food got done, like making this thing happen.
Yeah.
For the club members.
Yes, for all the country club members. So yeah, Valentine's Day 2006. We got rocked.
Oh wow! And you're in there. Okay,
making it happen.
Okay, and that's the beginning of how you guys met. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. So the GM was a big fan because he saw how we survived and actually put out some decent stuff that night.
Yeah.
And you had just accepted that role.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, I got the phone call. Hey, Mr. Kirkman wants you to go down to the country club and run the country club because that chef's not going to work out.
Okay.
So we let that chef go. I mean, I think the next day.
Wasn't too long.
That was that was probably my first termination at that property.
and so early in your beginnings. Man, that's crazy to think that that's how you met. So speed up to like you guys' relationship. Like, how are you guys building your relationship? And get me to the first wine dinner. How do you get there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think I think brother and I were just kind of feeling each other out. We respected each other definitely.
Mm-hmm. It was Gabe.
Yeah,
it was Gabe. Gabe brought the students in.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Gabriel brought the students in from Paragon to do a wine class, and that started us planning the first wine dinner.
Yeah, exactly. And we did quite a few wine dinners down there, but we would, that's where I really started to get into the sommelier thing as well, because I hadn't taken my sommelier exam at that point in time. My first one.
And this is 2006.
Yeah,
is that right?
2006, 2007 now, and we're starting to the club members. I'm looking.
I'm in high school cutting up.
Yeah, I'm looking at trying to keep my job down there because I know it's a kiss of death position. So I'm trying to figure out ways to entertain the club members and things to do and crazy things like they were closed on 4th of July. And there's this huge patio out there that looks at the fireworks at about 100 yards away. And I was like, why are you closed on 4th of July? It's open up for dinner.
Because nobody wanted to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, that is very correct.
And New Year's Eve for the club members, the place is dark. Why are you closed on New Year's Eve? That's the busiest night in the restaurant industry. So we came up with this idea to do a casino night for them and do a big dinner and casino night. And it started to take off. And then once we started to take off, the club members said, what else you can do for us? What else you can do for us? So that's when we started the wine dinner thing. And that's when we really started to get into, what can we do? What can we do fun? And Gabe was really instrumental in helping us, bring in some wines for us to taste. Because at that point in time, I wasn't selling wine.
So this is so early in your career.
Absolutely.
And then, so that's the important tangible that that I'm getting from it. Is that you guys have grown together.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Speak about each other. I want to go back and forth. Like how you guys have watched each other grow over the years. Talk about that from one another.
I think one of the most amazing parts was, as Steve and I worked together early on in our career, you can tell he was a natural educator. He wanted to explain what was going on. So he had this passion for wine, and, he would really get excited to take someone on a journey. And I think Tina's a perfect example. When we moved here to Colorado back in 2006, I drank wine, but not heavily. And Tina, she loved her Rieslings. I mean, it was more sweet wines. And, Steve was like, I'm going to educate you.
Did you like wine before?
And she was like, no. Oh, yeah, I did.
Were you into it?
Oh, absolutely. I built a lot of wine lists over my career in other restaurants as manager and whatnot. I built a lot of wine lists. And then I remember it was actually Travis Blaney who came down and he asked me one day, he goes, hey, do you want to take a sommelier exam? And I go, yeah, I'll take your sommelier exam. And I thought, I can do that. And then I started studying and I realized I knew nothing about wine.
When you talk, I feel that way.
I mean, nothing about wine. So, and I studied a lot, and then I really got passionate about it and excited about it, and then we took the journey.
Man, that's so dope to hear that, brother. What you think about Saus's journey in itself? Seeing him start from pretty much nothing to now, you guys you guys have a great relationship and great chemistry. The way you guys break down these wine dinners, because if I could say myself, like I think that's probably the most part of my journey with you guys has been those wine dinners. Like they're incredible, and it's definitely made me appreciate and love wine. But I still don't know it. Yeah. But at any rate, speak about his journey, from your perspective.
Well, I think there's a key piece there because I actually left. Tina and I moved away for 2 years, 3 years. And that's when Steve really started getting into the that's when Steve really started getting into the certifications. We had done the James Beard dinner in New York, and Mary Watson was the one who was talking about Steve should go for his certifications. Yeah. And that's why Travis was pushing that when he got back, is because we had spent that time with Mary, and she was really big on, I forget what level Mary was at the time. But that was a big part, and it's always unique to come back and look at that gap, because when I came back to Colorado in late 2012, 2013, Steve had this phenomenal just knowledge. I mean, it was a breath of fresh air of just, he was so excited to talk about wine on just a whole nother level. And I had obviously been, on my own journey in Chicago and in Texas, and I was in Texas. I knew I wanted to come back to Colorado at that time. And Steve was the one who said, hey, I'm at this restaurant, and I really think you'd be the perfect fit for them. I've already sold them on you. So you need to get out here and come have dinner
You need to come be my chef again.
And this is what Craftwood is.
This is the Craftwood.
Okay, talk about that. Talk about Craftwood time frame.
Yeah,
if you guys don't mind.
Well, I think that was kind of the beginning of the realization that what we did together was special. You know, we had done dinners at the club before, and you know, I was still very young in my chef education as far as like who I was, identity, and what I was trying to say. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of imitation of chefs that you respected or books you were reading. And, you know, Steve was just really starting to kind of get into what he wanted to do, and he was excited about wine. But when you move forward to the Craftwood a couple years later, I'm coming back with confidence, and I'm trying to make a statement, especially here in Colorado Springs, because I'm back, and I want people to know I'm back.
Right.
So, you know, he's built this phenomenal wine list. He's doing these blind tastings every week. I mean, he's really pushing his education. So I came in with this determination that what we're going to do here in the kitchen is going to be on the same level.
Ooh.
And that's really where Craftwood, I mean, that my whole hope for that whole time frame of being at Craftwood, I thought that was going to be a forever home.
Wow.
I mean, it was a Michelin style restaurant tucked in a mountainside. It was 100 years old. It had this beautiful garden that Steve had put together with all these other chefs from over the times, and I was so excited to work there.
Yeah.
So speak about that Craftwood time frame from your perspective.
Pretty cool because getting brother back, because I was there and I had a chef I was working with that was really good, and then we lost him, and then we had another chef there that I wasn't too. He was a vegetarian chef, was cooking game. Just wasn't doing it for me.
No, the best part.
I love the guy. The guy was amazing.
No. You forget the best part of this story. So, the chef at the time, nicest guy ever, but he interviewed with one of the local newspapers, and he told them he was a vegetarian, and the concept of the restaurant was wild game. Like you cook meat. So
I love that you broke that down for the people.
So there was this article, and the writer just had a field day with it. He was like, well, the chef doesn't eat meat, but you should go try his meat. And it was such a funny article. I mean, it wasn't a funny article, but it was very, ironic. And Steve actually emailed it to me. And so I remember sitting in San Antonio, sitting in my office, and I remember reading this article, and I was like, I got this
about
job.
a vegetarian chef who cooks
wild game.
Wild game.
Yeah.
And that's the whole restaurant is wild game.
It's it was a meat restaurant. So
take it back, Saus. So brother comes in,
that was the thing, is like, and brother and I were communicating. He was telling me he was thinking about coming back. He said, well, I'm going to work it. You're coming back here.
Yeah.
And then I worked it with the owner and the manager, and we talked about it, and then it just worked out perfectly, because then brother came back, and then we got to work together again.
Mm-hmm. And that was a fun year.
Yeah, and for me, it's all about passion. If I got somebody that has some passion, that's on the other side, and I'm doing my passion thing, then we can kind of culminate and come together and make beautiful music.
Yeah,
man, that's so dope.
And so that's where we really started to work really well together, and then that's when we started to break down the wines from the wine perspective instead of just the chef perspective, because a lot of restaurants and a lot of somms and chefs the chef will put together this amazing menu and then hand it to the sommelier, and the sommelier will say, okay, I'm going to pair this, and then from the sommelier's brain, he's pretty close. I mean, he can pair, wines with proteins and whatnot, but what we do is way different. What we do is we want to try to balance those flavors so much that plate and that pairing just kind of sings for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when we really started working well together and started breaking down those wines, and we'd break them down together.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're talking about breaking them down for the people like me, like you guys are diving into each flavor. Like help me out, describe what breaking it down, how you guys sing and make that beautiful music.
No, one of the things that I think about is there's this creative writing technique called bubbling or word bubbling, and it's where you essentially focus on a center point, and then you bounce everything around that idea, right? How does it all correlate, and then how do you bring it all together?
Yeah,
that idea of thinking through something was so special because we started to do that with food and wine. where it was like, okay, we're tasting, pork right now, and it's smoked. So what's going to go well with smoke and pork? And then it was like, okay, well, we're going to pair plum. Okay, we're going to pair brie cheese. Now we're going to throw in potato. Now we're going to throw in, basil. Like, we had all these flavors that would bounce around this pork. And then it was like, okay, now where's the wine fit in? And then we would do the same thing with the wine, where it's like, okay, what is the central flavor profile of this wine? Now let's break down all the components of this wine. And then let's find the contrast and let's find the harmony of this wine and the food. So it was this constant, back and forth. Yeah. And you're doing this through tasting a wine and thinking about the flavors on your palate. I mean, you're not actually tasting the ingredients, you're thinking about them, because our job as chefs, as sommeliers, as bartenders is to eat and memorize flavor profiles. So we can taste them. If I say,
that's interesting. I've never thought of that. Is you remember flavor profiles?
Yeah. If I say, avocado and smoked salmon, I can immediately taste that flavor profile in my brain.
Really? Yeah. Damn, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Shit, I got burnt pizza. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think the key to the pairing is, especially when brother and I sit down, and I think the best part of that pairing with him is the fact that I'll talk about a flavor in the wine, and then he'll pull a flavor in the wine, and then I'll see that, and then I'll pull another flavor, and then he'll see that. So by bouncing it off each other and tasting the wine together, we start to build that flavor profile together, where he tastes something and then I taste something, and then we go back and forth until we finally get to those extreme subtleties in the wine. It could be a hint of clove or some dried sour cherry on the very, very end. And what we try to do then is, now we're going to try to use that very subtle flavor in the wine, and we're going to try to develop the food to bring that out of the wine. So that back and forth thing that we do, I think, is amazing, because I can sit there and do it by myself, and I can do pretty good. But when you get somebody else that's passionate and has the palate that I have, and we can talk about it, then we can really start to break that down.
And that's interesting that you're doing it for the food and then the wine. So like the sentence or the phrase, I think it was, is like, you remember the flavor profile. When Saus just said like he tastes like the, I don't know, black cherry, whatever, on the end of the wine, like that's another profile that he is recognizing and relating to. And then you guys are pulling that together.
Yeah, and it can even be the stages of the fruit. I mean, we're tasting so many things, but it's constant realization, and you have to approach it from a humble perspective, because, at the end of the day, there's so much time put into the bottle, right?
Yeah.
Somebody planted.
I love that you say this. Go ahead.
Yeah. Somebody prepped that ground, right? They planted those seeds. They grew those vines.
Yep.
Nurtured them the whole season.
The whole time.
Make sure that everything's,
harvested them.
Right.
Just at the right moment. And then began the process of making alcohol and what it went into and how it was aged and when it was ready, and then getting it into the bottle and eventually getting it to the restaurant. You can't change the wine. The wine is the wine. So, for me as a chef, I always come from a curious perspective of, what was this winemaker thinking, and how can I complement all the work that went into it? Because there's a lot of people behind that.
Yeah. Because that's the flip. Most people would pair the food with the wine. You guys are pairing the wine with the, or reverse, right? Most people pair the wine with the food. You guys are pairing the food with the wine.
Always.
We try. Yeah, absolutely. You can't change the wine. It's in the bottle, but you can always change the food. You can change subtleties in the food. You can make that pairing sing. Yeah,
I love that. And now let's dive into like you guys' relationship and building these wine dinners, because we have one that we want to talk about, and by the end of this I do want to break down and kind of get you guys' thoughts into it, but that's not my session. But
we're gonna blow your mind, because I made one of the dishes.
Oh, yo!
I made one of the dishes.
This is the time to shine. Yeah.
I made one of these dishes because we're teaching a class tomorrow online.
Yep.
And then it's actually a part of the dinner on Friday and Saturday. But I was curious on how Steve was going to pair this, because I was at a loss. Like, I had some ideas.
Yeah.
And we started with 3 wines, and when he pulled out that third one, what it did to the dish elevated the dish.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to put you through that.
Yeah.
And it's so cool because go ahead, Saus.
That's important because we start with 3 wines, but they're all pretty similar. But all 3 wines paired with that dish.
Mm-hmm.
But the third wine
Made sense.
It paired beautifully. It really married that, and it bridged the gap to where all the flavors balanced.
Yeah, it gave the dish and the wine the why. Why did you pair this wine with this dish? And Tina and I were having dinner on Friday night, and we're eating at this beautiful restaurant, and phenomenal recognition at this restaurant. And the sommelier described this dish and dropped it, and we just didn't get it.
Yeah.
And Tina was actually the one to ask. She asked the sommelier. She goes, "Why? Why did you decide to pair it?" And he didn't really go into the why of the pairing. He went into the history and the region of the
wine,
grape.
of the grape.
And we knew what we were drinking, so it wasn't like that's not the question we asked. We wanted to know, and he never really gave us the why. Yeah. I think that's what happens in a lot of pairings is that the chef and the sommelier, or the chef and the wine person, do not communicate and truly understand why they're pairing that dish together.
I think that this is why, if you guys are watching, if you guys are in the local or even surrounding areas of Colorado Springs, this is why you guys should come out and check out one of these wine dinner pairings, because it is different. Like, I brought my sister to one. My sister is, let me just tell y'all, she ghetto as hell. When brother, what was it called? It was called pheasant. Is that right?
Yeah, we
did
a pheasant.
It was called a pheasant. And my sister was like, I ain't eating no peasant. I'm not eating no peasant. Anyways, but I brought her to the wine, and the reason why I bring this up is for people like me and my sister who really don't understand the whole wine pairings. Mm-hmm. When you eat the food, it's slamming, right?
Yeah.
But then when you drink the wine, the wine is good. And if you eat the food, then drink the wine, you have a different experience.
Correct. Yeah, and
it's different.
Listen to Tina's comments, because she's in the Instagram live right now. But she said, when we're talking about the wine with that sommelier and that dinner, she said the sommelier only described the wine. It was acidic and it had no fat in the dish. She goes, it was all acid. The dish was. She goes, Steve would be so proud of me.
I'm so proud of my tea right now.
Yeah, that's so dope that T can break it down like that. One day I'm gonna get to your level, T. One day. All right, so let's take it back, okay? Like, you guys have this relationship and you're pairing the wines. Speak about like your guys' favorite dinners or your favorite hit memories. Like, go back to memories for me. If we can tell a couple stories, whether it be about each other or wine dinners, can I get a couple stories?
I think the first thing you have to realize is we've done over 100 dinners together.
Yeah, so that's where I was like, a favorite can't be the right question. The right question is, what are some of your favorite memories? From each other, or even those wine dinners. What are some of your favorite memories? Tell me a story. What comes to your mind?
The strawberry brie soup.
Oh yeah, with the Vouvray.
That stands out.
Yeah. That was one of our first aha moments.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was one of our first where the pairing was so perfect, so perfectly matched.
Yeah, that's probably 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
That stands out as an aha moment for sure.
What other memories? Sauce, you got some memories of brother?
I got a recent memory that was pretty awesome. We did the Wizard of Oz dinner. I think, first of all, the staff did an amazing job decorating that place. And then everybody dressed up into a different character, and it was
killed it.
It was just amazing. But brother, come out in the lion. He was like, he owned it. It was awesome. He owned it.
I was a disco lion.
Yo, that is a great memory. He did own that lion. He was roaring all night. I think, he had the paws.
I think the thing, we talk about, our relationship, and I think the thing that I really admire most about brother is how humble he is. He's not, he has an ego. We all know he has an ego, but that doesn't really show. Unless he makes a
sometimes you need to remind some people.
Really good drive on the golf course. He got a little ego, but other than that, but I love how humble he is, and I love the way he talks to people, especially employees.
Yes,
and it's respectful, it's educational, it's humble, it's passionate, but it's gentle. It's gentle, and very rarely do you ever see him in the heat of the moment or in the kitchen ever get upset. It's really cool. It's even keel. So I really respect that. It's amazing. So
that's dope.
I appreciate that, you and bro.
We've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of stuff. There's so many. You know, Tina brought up the Willy Wonka. That to me, that's another one that stands out.
Yeah.
That was one of the first pop-ups when we started this business.
The Chocolate River Martini.
The Chocolate River Martini.
That's right,
The Violet, you're turning violet.
Yeah.
I mean, there was so many great things there.
That was cool.
You know, one of the moments, I think this was something that, like, you talk about humbling. I remember when we started at Street Eats, and, you know, the staff wore T-shirts.
Yeah, T-shirts and jeans,
And T-shirts and jeans. And Steve rocked it and delivered. And what we were doing in T-shirts and jeans in such a casual atmosphere was so high level. And I'll never forget you telling me the conversation of, like, you had one of your colleagues come in and like, what are you doing? Like, you're in a T-shirt and you're like, dude, I believe in brother. I trust in brother.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we put out just the craziest stuff, but it was just one of those moments where it's like, if you can work with team members who can truly be that humble to jump in and dress up in costume or working a casual outfit and still deliver the highest quality of that 5-star, 5 diamond, you know, that is the realest, most powerful thing. And it's one of the things I've always appreciated about Steve is he will always deliver. Like, he shows up and I've watched this man work 2 wine dinners in one night.
Yeah.
That's right. He's jumping from one restaurant across the street and coming over to do ours.
Right.
And
that was funny. I remember that night.
That's right.
You know, but that's what a great entertainer does is they, you know, one of my favorite quotes, the advantage of being a superstar is you can always step your game up.
Ooh.
At any minute you can step your game up.
Turn it on.
And I think that's something that, you know, myself and Steve both carry really well is we can always turn on superstar status and deliver.
Yeah.
To the highest standard that we can.
I love that you mentioned, like, you can humble yourself to wear, you know, what'd you say, jeans and shirt and deliver, you know, high quality.
Absolutely.
And then believe in it. Like, that's such an important part that Saus believed in you. Talk about your guys' trust relationship, how you guys have been building trust over so long. But speak about that portion of your guys' relationship. Trustin'. Come on, guys.
Trust fall.
No, I'll go. I mean, you know, it's a long time ago. We thought about opening a place called Mingle, and we talked about it, and we worked on getting some investors, and we were really, really close. But that was after the Cheyenne Resort. I think was that after Brian? Was that after
we were
Craftwood?
both at Craftwood.
We were still at the Craftwood then. That's right. And we were looking for a space, and we were looking to do something. And it's like, I believed in brother. I always have. I believe, and it's like I talked about, his humble and his passion and everything he had, and his talent, his eye for the plate is amazing. He can put a couple things on a plate, and somebody else can do the same thing, and it's
totally different.
It's way different. What he does is art.
Yeah.
And so I've worked with a lot of chefs in my career, but never have I worked with somebody that has that vision and that style and everything that he does. So I believed in him. So whatever brother's going to do, I'm going to come along for the ride, because I started selling wine after the Craftwood, and brother opened up Street Eats. And on the first day he was opening, he called me. He said, "Hey, you want to come help me out? Come wait some tables for lunch?" And so I came. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. Because I had another career at that point, because I'm selling wine then.
Yeah.
And so I came down and I started waiting tables for lunch, and since then I'm the only employee that's been there since day one. And that's loyalty to what I believe in, and I believe in brother, and I believe in Tina, and I believe in the team. But, you know, let's talk about the cool stuff that we used to do in that back room back there.
Oh man,
That's where that all began.
Yes,
We had
bring
this,
us
we had
up.
this, we
I
had this,
love
little, we had
this.
this little back room that we could seat 8 people in.
it was such a weird layout in that restaurant.
Yes.
There was like this.
They are funny. Someone said, "Have you two ever kissed as friends?"
So it's interesting because, and I want to go back a little bit. So
Oh, this is good. I love it.
When we talk about when we were discussing Mingle, we were really close. We had a cool space. We had people that believed in us, were willing to fund us. The thing was, I didn't believe in myself at that time. And it took a long time to realize how much fear I actually had in going for it, because I always had a security blanket. I always had a steady check. I never risked it all. I never put it all on black. And that was one of those moments that, it scared the hell out of me. Somebody willing to give you that much money to start a restaurant. And I ran from that fear. I wasn't ready. And I was forced into that position because, as we move forward a couple months later, there was writing on the wall that restaurant wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
And I could see through, the financials and the checks starting to be postponed that I wasn't going to have a job.
Yeah, it's not good when your paychecks.
Yeah. And it was a realization that there was nowhere else I wanted to work. There was no one I wanted to work under. So I finally, knew that was the moment where I had to do something. And Tina was the one who said, you've got to pick one or the other. You can't do them all. Go for it. And, if you screwed up, we just start over.
This is so good to take it back all the way. And let's kind of dive into moving forward from there. Speak about that time period from right there when you guys were about to do that to then Saus is working as a waiter, but that's how much he believes. Speak about that middle gap that we're missing here.
I mean, I always tell people I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
There's something that Saus said about you, about like how you're humble and that you have, his words were vision. You have vision. And then what I thought about was another word that I see from Brother that I love about Brother, which is he has this drive. And I don't know, how to categorize and put him in some type of a box, because I don't think that you should do that. But he has incredible drive to create the vision that he sees. And I think there's some type of, interesting relationship between having the drive and the vision. Because some people have drive and no vision. Other people have vision and no drive. But you have a drive for your vision. Talk about, that dynamic. Like how do you get that?
My house is on the line.
Well, there's you got the drive and the vision, but there's a governor on your gas pedals called Tina.
Okay. I love this governor. The governor is called T.
He's got the gas floored, but it ain't going 100 yet.
This is great. T's the governor.
She's the balance for sure. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a dreamer. And I see things in my head and I like to see them come to life. And that's something that's really special to actually watch happen repeatedly. Whether it's a dish or it's a concept or the space we're sitting in right now.
Yes.
When I tell people, I'm like, this is what I think. And they look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
And then, you fast forward and you're like, I told you so. Yeah. Like that's such a cool realization. So, I love that piece of it, but there does need to be balance with that. There has to be checks and balances.
Yeah.
And,
and T's that balance.
She is, but it's also a lot of the people I keep around me like Steve, these are people who are going to call you out and be like, yo, this is where we're slacking. This is where we need to step up. Hey, I'm not feeling this menu or these dishes. Like Steve's always shot me straight, which is something I've always appreciated because you need that.
Yeah.
Don't let someone just inflate your ego and then
you
lose touch with reality.
Right.
I got some more questions. It's coming to me. So now we're moving past that time frame. Okay, Street Eats is a time frame. You're working through it. Let's talk about the beginning of 4. From Saus's perspective.
Before we go there, man, we got to talk
ahead.
about what we did in that back room at Street Eats.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
We did blacklight dinners.
We did all kinds of stuff.
Well, I wore
Seuss.
all black, a white tie and white gloves, and all I could see was the white tie and white gloves.
Ooh,
And
Yeah.
we did the food so that the food was glowing. I mean, we did some crazy stuff.
We did a lot of really unique, and that was kind of the beginning where
we put people in a closet.
we
And people paid money to come to that thing. It was
So-
a closet.
it was a closet. It was so small.
Break this down for the people.
I had to tape up those black tablecloths on the walls to make the whole room black. Remember?
Yep,
We did some crazy stuff.
we did. We had them walk through a parking lot and come in through the back door, and the thing was, there was this weird room that was a storage room in the back of the restaurant, and it was probably only 10 feet by 8 feet. It wasn't a big room. It was really small. And we knew we could fit like 8 people in there. And we're
One day we did 12.
yeah. And we knew it was such a uncomfortable space. We had to change the atmosphere of it. So we actually like duct taped black table linens all around the cabinets that were in that space and over the windows. And then we turned the lights off, and then we set up black lights. So it was a sensory dinner. It was an experience, and you couldn't see. The whole point was so you couldn't see how busted the room was. But it was kind of fun because then it got into we're gonna create, you know, this hot cold temperatures. We're gonna create this sensory. We're gonna make this vibrate on your tongue. Like we did all this crazy stuff with food and beverages.
Yeah.
And it was such a cool realization that we could do dinners beyond just the a la carte. And I think that's kind of what, you know, I'm in this weird phase right now where, you know, restaurants are restaurants and they need to be consistent and you're serving a large volume of people. But when you're doing small, intimate dinners, you have a lot more room to play because it's very small. And that means they trust you because they got tickets to that. Right. So they can't wait to see what you have up your sleeve.
Yep.
And I love that because now I'm so excited to play around with what we're doing up here in the studio because now this is a controlled environment. It's not a closet anymore. There's a lot more room.
I don't have to put tablecloths on the walls.
We can leave the lights on.
This is awesome. Tablecloths on the walls.
Yeah.
You didn't want them to see the walls, and it's a sensory dinner, so it's dark.
Well, we did several. I think
And
we
y'all
did.
are in the closet.
We did a dozen at least.
Willy Wonka. No, we did
In that one room.
Dr. Seuss dinner.
Yeah, in that one room.
In the one room.
In
So
the one
there's-
room.
So basically, there's 8 to 12 people at that dinner.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how it is?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they're in this closet, and
Pretty
that's
much.
where you're hosting your wine dinners.
Pretty much.
Is that what I'm getting?
That's
While we
exactly
served
that.
in the restaurant.
While
and did
you
normal
served
service.
in the restaurant with normal service, so you didn't shut it down.
No.
You
No.
let that, and then this was its own
Yeah, we had two
small,
events going on.
intimate dinner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, this is so good! I'm so glad I
It's
understand.
funny when you fast forward to something like this now because this is
This
on
is a big
magnified-
closet.
Yeah, it's a much magnified version of that. But
This is where the vision becomes real.
but that was always the thing is like we'd love to take people on these experiences.
Journeys.
And
they were journeys.
They need to be uninterrupted, and
That's
that's one
so
of the things
dope.
that's so important. So being up here, I'm really excited to be able to do like this dinner this weekend because we get to take people on this really fun journey of what we're creating, and then we get to continue to do that over and over and over. So, you know, it's really exciting.
Ooh, that's so good. I love that Sauce brought us back to the back room, which is the dark room. Now I get it. That's the wine room in essence. All right, so take us now. Let's fast forward. Let's go to 4. All right, 4 opens and speak about your perspective of the journey with 4 because 4's been open like 3-4 years now.
4.5 years.
4.5 years now. Yeah. And Sauce, you've been at the beginning of that. Speak about 4's development and this phase before we get to like the Lucky and upstairs here. From Sauce perspective, I want Sauce on this front because obviously, brother, it's his restaurant, but you're within the system, so I think you have a different perspective.
I think Streets was cool, but then we wanted to get back to the mingle concept because the mingle concept was small plates and wines. That was our concept there, and so we wanted to get back to this what we really do best, which is pairing food and wine or beverages and wine or beverages and food. Pardon me. So that's what we really wanted to do. So that was kind of like our dream restaurant is to do something where we can have a really nice wine list and we have a really nice menu and we can start to pair those things. And I think it was when we first opened, we didn't have wine pairings.
Mm-mm.
When we first opened, brother put out the menu.
And
his
left.
Four Corners was awesome, and then left. But it became successful. And then he came back, and we had still the
came
Four
back,
Corners,
baby.
And then he jacked it up, and then he just
Screwed it up. I almost closed the restaurant down.
and he put out a menu that was all lined up. No, they like the Four Corners. Keep it. Don't fix it. But then I started doing wine pairings on my own in the restaurant, and I started doing. People would say, "Can you pair this for me?" So sure, I would pair the dinners, and that wasn't on the menu. And
We started seeing his check averages.
And then people started commenting on what they did. And brother says, well, can you do this for the whole restaurant? Well, of course we can do this for the whole restaurant. So that's when we really started to do what we really enjoy, which is every dish on that menu is paired with a different wine. And you can come in and have a 4-course wine dinner. And if it's a couple and everybody orders separately, you can have an 8-course wine dinner. And I say that to people all the time when they come in. Two people are going to say, why don't you order something different? And then you guys can share, and then
8 dishes with 8
you have an
different pairings.
8-course wine dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then
that's dope. I'm about to do
We can
that.
share.
Yeah.
You know what it was though? We had a article come out that pretty much said we were the ultimate wingman for date night.
Yeah.
And that was the realization of we're on to something. We are going to take the guesswork out of the pairing, the wine, the list, the uncomfortable French terms and Italian wording.
Yeah.
And we are going to make it approachable.
Man, for people like me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love it. I
It's
love
going to make
it.
you look
This-
like a rock star.
This is so good. Like, and I didn't even realize, and I was a part of that damn journey. I didn't realize. I didn't even realize that you didn't start with the wine pairings.
Yeah, you've been documenting it.
I've been
us.
documenting it for sure. And that's what's incredible is like to hear that perspective. That's what I love. I love it. All right, bro. Now your side of 4. I want you to talk about the journey from your side.
Yeah.
Obviously it's your baby.
Yeah, the opening team was intentional because I knew I was going to film Top Chef.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I was going to be leaving right around the time we were opening. So instead of postponing, we trusted. And Tina was a big part of that. She was like,
Shout out T.
Yeah. But we had Aaron in the kitchen, we had Travis in the front, and Tina was the money. And we wrote this concept of like 4 courses, based on seasons with 4 cultures, and it was a box type scenario. And it made a lot of sense when we wrote. We all got excited. I remember sitting there. The 3 of us were sitting there at like 12 o'clock in this empty room being renovated with all this tarp, and we wrote this idea. And we're like, man, that's cool. And it was so easy to write it. So it was like, Spanish menu. It was a Latin menu. There was a Western pioneer menu, and a Native American menu. Yeah. And it was four different sections. And I left for Top Chef. And when Tina said they all hated me, when I got back from Top Chef 2 months later, I didn't know the restaurant. I was so insecure coming back into the restaurant because I didn't know the staff, I didn't know the systems, I didn't know the food, I didn't know the customers that were coming to frequent at that time. Like, I didn't know anything about the space. I'd been gone for the first 2 months. Yeah. So, your first reaction is to change it, make it yours. And I did. And I screwed up what was working. I mean, they had volume numbers, record numbers. And when I changed it, we dropped off so bad. We almost closed the restaurant because the financials were so, coming to the bottom line. It just didn't look good. And Tina was the one who was like, hey, you need to change it back to what it was because it worked. And I had to eat like the worst humble pie ever. And, I had to take that look internally and be like, okay, what are we doing? So we went back to the 4-course tasting. Steve was actually a big part of that conversation where he was like, yeah, Tina's right.
Yep.
It worked.
Yep.
Let me sell it. Let's add wine to it.
Yep.
So we started having these conversations and we turned it back into 4-course tastings, and Steve added the wine pairing flights to it. And it just catapulted after that. I mean, it's been surreal to watch it all happen, but yeah, my ego coming back almost closed the restaurant.
Man, this is so good for people listening to hear these stories.
Well, you go on a show like Top Chef and you think this is the creme de la creme. We're the best of the best, right? That's a measurement. And you've been cooking with all these celebrity chefs, and you've been serving all these guest judges and working
celebrity guest judges.
Yeah,
it's just this environment.
You now feel like you have some validation.
Yeah, you're on the big stage.
You feel like you need to step your game up when you come home,
right?
Because when the show comes out, you got to be able to deliver that.
And little do you know that because you're uncomfortable, that made you second guess it, but it was working.
Mm-hmm.
So that's so interesting to hear, and then to eat the humble pie to correct it. I think that's the entrepreneur. Like that's, and obviously that's T with the checks and balances.
When you got to think too, the other side is like to leave for 2 months and they do record numbers like that. Like, y'all don't need me.
Yeah. Man, that's
my name's on the door.
That's an interesting perspective.
Like, I built it. I was the one here for the last 4 years, 3 years,
right,
making this happen. And
your name on the door is what brought those people in. Don't second guess yourself.
Right. Hey, I'm glad Saus is here. Talk that talk, Saus. Yes, that's exactly what we need to hear.
It really was a tough pill to swallow coming back. And it was people like Steve and Tina who called me out and was like, we need to fix this and we need to do it this way. Yeah. And, I had to listen. And we did. And here we are 4.5 years later. That team is so phenomenal. I'm so proud of everything they're doing. Right. But it's also allowed me to trust more and believe in my people as a leader.
So important. So important.
And I think we've all grown together. Me, you, T, and the whole team. But essentially me, you, and T, and Myra. Mm-hmm. We've all kind of grown together and learned a lot, and we trust each other. We do.
Yeah. Well, and now we're getting into this project up here where now we can kind of control when we want to do the dinners and what type of dinners we want to do. And, we're just now scratching the surface of what this space, just the private bookings alone is insane on the demand for this space.
Yeah.
But to be able to say, no, we're holding off these nights because we're doing a Spanish wine dinner and we're going to fly out the winemaker for this dinner and it's only for 20 people. Like, this is such a
intimate.
It's so intimate.
It's
so fun.
Intimate and creative. It gives you guys that creative freedom. Okay, so I do want you to talk about the wine because I know that was the main thing tonight. I hijacked the episode, but I do want to fast forward a little bit. You guys have been building a relationship. Saus said it with Myra and Saus and T and Brother. Mm-hmm. So I want you to speak about T and Brother's relationship from your point of view. What are some things that you've seen and what do you take away from it, if that's fair?
You really want me to go there?
I do. I do.
I'm just teasing, T. I'm just teasing. It's all good.
Sorry, T. This is that time.
No, we're very close friends. The four of us together, and we have a couple other people that are close with us too. But we're very close friends. We can hang out together. We don't have that situation where we all like each other and we all respect each other and trust each other. So I think the growth. I've known Brother since he was young. He was a young man when I first met Brother, and now he's a lot more mature. He's always been amazing. But Tina and Brother, their relationship together and the way they feed off of each other and the way they take care of each other and the way that T keeps that governor on you can't go 100 miles an hour, slow down. But he gives her a little grief too. It's a great relationship that they have. And they're great friends, and we love them. Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
I always think if you want to learn, if you really like someone, travel with them.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Right.
I've traveled with both of y'all.
Yeah.
So I know I like you both.
Right.
But, especially as couples, I think that's so important. Like, you got to go travel with another couple, see if you really like them.
And that's so cool that you guys have, beyond your professional, you guys have a personal relationship. And I think that is what makes you guys so successful. And, through time, you guys stand that test of time.
Yeah.
Is because you guys have personal and business relationship. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now I just want to pick your brains real quick, okay? This episode in specific, we didn't really have a topic besides, the wine and the food. But I do want to give some advice, okay? we always try to give some type of, whether it be a tip or advice for our listeners, how can they take away? And the question is around wine, okay? For somebody like me who, like when I taste the wine, I just know if it's good or not. How can we help, develop our palate? Or what are some tips that we can, educate ourselves on wine? I want a tip from both of you guys. What do you guys got?
I can go. The most important thing is when you're tasting a wine, you don't realize all the flavors that are in there. You're overwhelmed by trying to figure out what exactly that flavor is. That's why when you come to the restaurant and I kind of guide you, and then you taste it, and then then that light bulb goes on in your head. You go, wow, I've never tasted that before. So basically, what you got to try to do, it's from memory. It's like brother said it earlier. It's a flavor profile memory. He knows what avocado and that smoked salmon tastes like. And that's a memory in your brain. So when you're tasting wine, you got to think about that. You got to think about memories. You got to think about fruits that you might be tasting. Does this taste like cherry, or is it raspberry? Is it blackberry, or is it blueberry? So you got to start to break that down. And that's how you really get good at tasting and breaking down flavor profiles in wines, actually.
Brother, what you got for me? Give me a good tip. You got anything?
Yeah, Steve actually was the one to really kind of break this down for me. But, understand that wine is geography. And wine only comes from essentially two lines across the world. And, when you look at that geography, you start to understand that, certain grapes grow in certain areas. And now you begin to understand the characteristics of those grapes. So pick a grape that you think is something that you might be interested in and start to enjoy that grape, and then taste different regions of that grape. If you're picking something like Malbec, and that's the wine that you want to start to understand, really get into Argentina and understand what's happening in that specific area of Argentina and why the grapes are tasting like why they are.
Yeah.
Versus like, oh, I want to get into, a Syrah, and I'm going to go down to, Australia. Like there's so many different things that are based on geography. So, don't be afraid to look at the map and see where the wine's coming from.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's cool to do side by sides too.
That's a good tip. Side by side.
There's a thing called terroir, which is it's soil, it's climate, it's conditions, it's the way the vineyard manager manages that vineyard. Those are all terroir. Those are things that make the grapes taste the way they do. So you can take a Syrah, which is called Shiraz in Australia, and then take a Syrah from California, and then take a Syrah from the Rhone region of France, and try them all side by side. Mm-hmm. It's the exact same grape, but because that grape's grown in different regions of the world, it's going to taste differently. And that's where you start to develop your palate, and that's where you start to go, oh, now I get why this tastes differently in this region than it does somewhere else.
And Tina's just hit it. I mean,
That's
she's obviously the best marketer out of all of us, because her comment is, you just have to come to a wine dinner and see how the food and the changes the wine.
Yes, that's so true.
That's the best advice right there.
Best advice.
Let us take you on a journey.
All right, guys, man. All right, I do want to give you guys the opportunity to break down your menu. If that's what you want to do, run through that.
I mean, I don't even think we have to. I mean, we can.
Or if you want to go ahead and whip up a dish, I'll taste it. You know what I'm saying? Because we told our listeners we was going to taste it.
I'm going to go heat this up real quick. It take me literally a minute and a half to get this warm. I want you to taste this dish that I made. I made some dirty rice.
Okay.
And that's a very southern traditional dish, and it's got some really unique flavors of chicken liver and spices, but Steve blew my mind with this wine pairing, so I'm gonna let y'all chat while I'm gonna go heat this up. All
right. And what we're gonna talk about, just so I can keep interviewing Saus, is I want to talk about brother's journey in golf game. So so help us out. You know what I mean? Because you said he had a mean little slice. When he started. Talk about how he's grown as a golfer, because he is pretty nice. I ain't gonna lie, he's pretty nice.
That was one of the greatest perks about working in the Cheyenne Mountain Resort, was that we, as managers, we could go golf whenever we wanted to. And when you first get that perk, you think that's awesome, but then you realize that they work you so damn hard that you really don't have time. But we would find time, because we would say we have to have a meeting. So then we would go play 9 holes.
Oh yeah, okay. A meeting in 9 holes, so about an hour, hour and a half.
Hour and a half, or something like that. So we would go out and play 9 holes, and then that's where we really started to bond because he enjoyed the game, and my game's pretty good.
Humble abode.
My game's pretty good.
For everybody out there that doesn't know, Saus, man, I'm chasing Saus. It's so tough to beat his ass because he's parring every hole, and if he's not parring, he probably got a birdie. So you know what I'm saying, but help us out, talk about his growth, cause
so he used to swing really hard. He used to swing with an open face, and he'd have that big slice, and we'd chase it down. But he learned. He wanted to he wanted to keep playing with me, and I basically helped coach him, and I would coach him along, and I would change little things in his swing, and he got better and better and better. And matter of fact, he was with me. He was with me when I hit my my third hole in one.
Third? How many have you had?
Just 3.
Just 3? Just 3.
But he was with me. We were on number 8 at the country club, and we were on one of our afternoon meetings, and I hit this shot, and it bounced, and it looked like it may have gone in the trap in the back of the green. I go, no, I didn't hit it that far. He goes, it's in the trap. I go, I don't think that club will go that far. So we drive up there and we drive around to the green, and there's
you guys are looking for you can't
no
find
ball
it
in the trap, and then we walk up, and sure enough, it's in the bottom of the hole.
Oh man, that's awesome.
So I got my brother as a witness to one of my holes once. It's pretty cool. So
that's dope.
But now when you play with him, he's serious now.
Yeah, he's
serious now. His game is
he hits a straight ball.
His game is great. It's grown a lot.
And,
and I'm just worried about the day that he's gonna finally beat me.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking,
has he ever beaten you?
No, not yet. But it's coming.
He said no,
it's
not
coming.
Yet,
it's
not
coming.
Yet.
But I'm hoping that by the time he starts to catch me, that I'll be 65 and I'll be a senior. Then I can hit from those front tees. There.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Well, the other day I said, brother won't let me hit from the senior tees. He goes, you're 1 over. I'm 6 over. I'm gonna let you hit from the senior tees. That ain't gonna happen.
Right. So then Saul says, when you guys beat me, I'm moving up to the senior tees. Right. Sauce is nasty. I'm just gonna tell y'all from my point of view. We brother's hooking up, so in the back in the studio, brother's getting busy right now because I'm gonna taste a little wine pairing. But Sauce always tells me fur and gur.
Fur and gur,
what I'm saying? Fur and gur.
Fur and gur.
Which is fairways, and green and regulation.
Fairways and regulation, green and regulation.
So that's so dope. All right. We got some food here. Okay, and then we're gonna break down the wine. So Sauce, if you don't mind, go ahead and describe the wine for us.
Here, give me a glass. I'll give
here you go. Here you go, baby. Here you go.
Smell it together.
And then help me out. All right. Damn, I'm not good at this. What do you smell?
Well, I brought when I first looked at this menu, and I saw the dirty rice, and I've had it before, and I knew brother puts chicken livers in here, so I know that's got a lot of fat, and I knew that his rice, the dirty rice, is actually a little bit spicy, and it's got this savoriness to it, and I'm gonna let him describe the dish. But in my brain, I remembered the rice, and I remembered he talking about his father's recipe. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I remember him telling me, and I remember tasting it. So
this is your dad's dirty rice right here.
Yeah. So I had that. Man. I had that in my memory
of the flavor profile.
So when I first thought about this dish, I thought I was going to pair this with a Riesling, and brother wasn't sure about it. But then when we tasted it together, so the Riesling, when we smell this, you get that beautiful apple pear, and then you get a little petroleum smell in the back, a little petrol.
I'm just going to nod my head. I have a bad sense of smell.
Anyway, when you taste this, it's a Spätzle, so it's got a little more residual sugar in it, and I want that sweetness to help tame that spice in there. Mm-hmm. It's got that beautiful acidity.
Yeah,
and I want that acidity to balance that fattiness of this dish, and then also want that saltiness of this dish that's going to contrast that sweetness as well. So when you take a bite of this food, it's beautiful. It's delicious. It's savory. It's salty. It's fatty. It's spicy, and then everything in this wine is contrasting that to balance this.
Okay, I'm ready now.
All right. So when you get into this dish, right? When I make that recipe, it's making a dark roux, So it's making
Oh my God.
the flour and the oil and cooking those down until it's really, really dark, extremely nutty. And then I fry the celery, the onion, the garlic, the green onion, and all that gets sauteed up with a little bit of bell pepper. So you cook it in the roux before you add the chopped up chicken livers, and then caramelize that. Once the rice is done pilaf style with just some chicken stock, you fold that in with some scallions and some parsley, some cayenne, and a little bit of black pepper and salt. But I actually like to use chipotle because I think it has a little bit more of a smoky note to it than my dad's recipe, which is cayenne. But it has a lot of depth in there, which is really unique. What I thought was amazing about this wine pairing was when he poured this, we had tasted 2 other Rieslings. When we got to this one, what I found most powerful about this wine pairing was the apple notes that came out of it. When I ate the dish, made me want to put apple in the rice. And I think that's something a great pairing can do. It can complement or it can contrast. And this complements this dish because all the heat that you're getting in that rice and then that garlic and that roux and that nuttiness, all of those flavors with that chicken liver, that earthy chicken liver, tastes really unique when you pair it with this Riesling.
Look, y'all, I wish y'all understood. There's no way through audio for me to explain. But I'm gonna just take this drink real quick.
The best part of that whole thing is after tasting that pairing, I realized I put the wrong wine in there, and now I got the right wine in there.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
this one complements better.
Absolutely.
I'm glad that we did that.
Absolutely.
Because at first, I ain't gonna lie,
Yeah.
I was like, it doesn't hit, but this one is hitting. Ooh, I'm glad. So now I see
Now you see a perfect pairing.
Pairing.
Yeah, it's really unique when you can.
That's so much better.
Yeah.
It's like hardcore apple juice in your face.
Yo.
It's like biting into a really, really ripe apple.
All right, look, y'all. I don't know what to say. This is good. I'm glad we did this on camera for people who don't really understand. I don't know food, y'all. I just know if it's good or if it's not. And this is slamming.
Well,
All right,
that's the beauty, man. Is food is constantly constant education. You're constantly eating things to memorize them.
You want to know something? Because, flavor profiles, I don't think, like, I have, like, a bunch of memories of flavor. But I do. Like, when I taste it, and I was like, oh, I get flavor profile. And as you described it, I was eating it. And I was just like, oh, I get it now. You know what I'm saying? And then when I paired it, I don't know all the descriptions, you know what I'm saying? But, like, the way that they mesh together, that was so good. I love y'all. Look, Aaron.
It's a fun
No
pairing.
Luck's Given podcast. Before we take off, what final thoughts you guys got? I want to give you the table or the floor back to you. Sauce, you got anything, brother? You got anything? Anything? Final thoughts? What you guys got to say?
Yeah, I got. The studio for us is really our ultimate dream, to be able to have brother in the kitchen and me out here on the floor and have this close, intimate room.
Yes.
Where you can watch brother cook and then we can talk together and take you on
Right.
this food and wine experience, this journey. So watch for the menus to come out. It's going to be super awesome. We're not going to do it all the time, but it's going to be
Limited seatings, baby, which
be
makes
limited,
this exclusive. Everything great is limited.
So come see us. We'll take care of you.
Other than that, brother, what you got? You got anything?
Yeah, man. I was having a really good conversation this morning in one of my meetings, and we started this conversation about no resolution without trust. And as I think back to what we're doing here in the restaurants between Steve and myself and just everything we've been gearing up towards, it really comes back down to trust. Like, there's a lot of trust in food, a lot of trust in the wine, a lot of trust in the service, a lot of trust in the communication. You have to develop trust in order to find resolution. So if you're struggling with some type of battle, you got to find the resolution through trust.
Amen. That's a nugget. I love that. And beyond that, I don't got no nugget today. But besides y'all, if y'all in the Colorado Springs area, y'all got to come through. This is the studio, No Luck's Given exclusive before the actual first official. This is the first official dinner this weekend?
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday?
We're officially going. Yeah.
All right, look, y'all. Thank you so much. Sauce, you're our special guest. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate you coming on. This was fun.
Awesome,
this was
yeah.
really fun. And one day I'm going to beat you in golf. One day I'm going to hit all pars.
No, you know what? Just because you didn't have a gem, I'm going to give you a gem for Dana Keith.
All right, you ready?
And I typed it up for you.
All right, go ahead.
The toughest opponent is the person you see in the mirror.
I know that's real.
So stop competing with us.
Right. And compete with myself. That's why y'all don't know this, but I was on the golf course today by myself. By myself. I played a whole round by myself, just working on my game because I'm trying to beat one of y'all. I'm going after brother first because I can't beat Sauce yet, but I'm trying my best to beat bro. One day. I'm about 5-10 strokes close, you know what I'm saying? One day. But look, y'all, thank you for listening. We appreciate y'all so much love. Subscribe, give us some ratings on iTunes, Spotify, the whole nine. And please subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/Chef Brother Luck. I love y'all. Peace and love.
Peace.
The man behind the hustle and grind. This is pride, courage, determination, and perseverance. Welcome to No Luck's Given.